Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Brand new.
Hey, we're talking brand new Joe. Hey, we're on a brand new show. Deep dives, blow by blow. Spotting Uzis and crossbow. Like a buzzball or pogo. Got ninjas like Don Shadow. Comics are how I spend my dough. We're coming to you in stereo. It's time for Talking Joe. With Mark and Tim, here we go.
Brand new.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe Comics podcast. We are coming to you again from the far corners of the Energon Universe to talk about the latest issue that has hit the racks. It's G.I. Joe issue number 16, which came out Wednesday, 17th of December. It is part 4 of 5 of the Dreadnok War. The synopsis read: the final battle of the Dreadnok War begins. G.I. Joe and Cobra are on a collision course with the Dreadnoks and whatever remains of Duke and Cobra Commander. The penultimate chapter of the twice-monthly G.I. Joe epic is here. And joining me to talk about it, it's my regular co-host. It's a real Energon Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, and hello, listeners and viewers. If you missed this episode just a few days, if you missed having this episode just a few days after this issue came out, yes, we try to always live stream when new issues come out. And then it seems like we're doing extra because if the comic is coming out more often, if it's shipping bi-weekly. But with this issue showing up so close to the holidays, pulling off a live episode was scheduling wise a little hard. So we're pretending it's 2024 and this was just a regular video episode that gets posted and not live streamed. Not like our aggressive 2025 live streaming schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we're it's now 2026 probably, I guess, and I don't even know if it is or not. When I'm putting this out, I'm getting so confused. I'm not even full of mince pies and panettone and Christmas cake and Yule log and what were we talking about, Tim? Again, sorry, I just got distracted by food.
I think we're talking about this mini-series that I put together that Boom is publishing in just a few weeks, folks. Get ready with that JPEG, Mark. Folks, I like Larry Hama's writing and the artwork of Mark Bright, MD Bright, so I got them back together after their G.I. Joe collaboration so many years ago. It's a 4-issue miniseries. I'm the editor, and Boom Studios is publishing it, and the first issue is out February 11th, 2026, and that first issue is double-sized. It's 40 pages. Josh Burcham is the color artist. That's who colored a bunch of excellent Transformers comics at IDW. I picked him for this project. And this is a superhero story where the superheroes have to join a union. And that's the bad guy trashing them on the covered issue number 1. Ask your comic book store for the center holds.
Very good. It is a 4-issue miniseries from Boom. If you want to read this, do ask your comic book shop to order it for you to make sure that you can definitely get a hold of it. It's the G.I. Joe team of Larry Hama plus MD Bright. So I guess it's in that sort of Venn diagram of G.I. Joe and other comics, it's a big crossover, and I guess for fans of other more superhero comics as well, sort of in their wheelhouse. We're talking people who might like, I don't know, Astro City, Justice League International. What do you think is the spiritual kind of brothers and sister comics to this one, do you think, Tim?
Oh, that's a good question. And on the spot, I'm blanking, but that's a good start. Yeah, I mean, it feels like something that Larry Hama wrote. And, there are a couple characters that will remind you of some kinds of characters that Larry Hama puts into his scripts. And let me think about this and answer that question when we do the next episode.
Okay.
Because we should probably start talking about G.I. Joe.
Yeah, there's one. We're here to talk about G.I. Joe issue number 16, which only just came out at time of recording. But before we get into that, there's a couple of things to update on. So last time we were talking about the little boxes in the corner of the issues, top left-hand corner, where you've got the issue number and you've got a price. You've got a Skybound logo, which is that sort of like kite man thing going on. You've got an EU, which doesn't stand for European Union like some people think. It stands for the Energon Universe, and it's on every issue it's got 4 floating heads, which sort of harkens back to the good old days of Marvel Comics and etc., where they used to do that. And they have been changing them up. So I went back and investigated how much they have been changing them up. So issue number 1 had basically the main characters: Duke, Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness. And that was the status quo up until issue number 9, when they switched up for the main characters, featuring their Baroness and Covergirl, who, if you remember, in that arc were the main ones, as well as Hound, Clutch's buddy, and Major Blood, the villain of that arc. It changed again with issue number 12, which was the shooter issue. So we've got some Night Force characters in there. Beachhead, Lady J, Flint, and Major Blood, with his patch for good measure. I think maybe he might have featured on one page at the end, beginning or end of the book or something. And then with the Dreadnok War, changed up again, we've got Zorana, Cobra Commander, Ripper, and Duke. And that sort of switches about a little bit through the issues. So we've got a buzzer on issue number 16. And looking further ahead, back in 18, where we've got Night Force again, Flint, Lady J, Beachhead. And further ahead again, 19, we're going to have Hound on the front cover. So Hound and Clutch, as well as Duke and Cobra Commander. So they are playing with it. It's nice that they're not just fixing it and not thinking about it. They're obviously looking to play with it pretty much every issue.
That's really fun. For those of you who have not been to a lot of brick and mortar comic book stores, the reason for this is that a comic shop with shelving or racks where a comic sits next to another comic, when there are too many issues, let's say you have space on your rack for 10 comics, but more and more comics come out. And so now you have, 12 or 15. You start to cover up one comic with the issue before it or after it, and you sort of fan them out. And as long as you can see this sort of 1-inch width along the edge, right, you know what that comic is. If you see a whole bunch of comics fanned out and you can only see one title on top, but all the comics that are fanned out and you see that 1 inch, it's like Spider-Man, 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 and then like a Wolverine head and a Colossus head and a Storm head. You know that that's 3 Spider-Man comics and an X-Men issue. And in the era of graphic novel collections and reading digitally, this is sort of unnecessary or maybe even doesn't make sense. It just is like a fun thing, but it actually does serve a purpose and used to serve a purpose. And at my comic book store at Hub Comics in Somerville, Massachusetts, we do this. We fan some books out on the new release rack. And I don't know that anyone's walking up and leaning down and looking at G.I. Joe and understanding that there are different issues of G.I. Joe slightly behind the top one. But there it is.
And also hearkening back to last time, I talked about the potential influence on the Ben Oliver cover for issue number 15 of that Zorana pose, thinking, did he get inspiration from this photo of the singer Pink with that sort of snarled lip? And I posted it up on the Swipes Facebook group, and who should reply but Ben Oliver, who said, nope. He said, nope, it's not that. But Justine Fleischman from Band Elastica does do a nice lip snarl as well. So I think that's maybe pointing more to the potential reference or homage he was thinking of on this particular cover.
I'm going to start a Facebook group called Coincidences, and you can be the first post there with the Zorana and Pink images.
But yeah, quite a lively and interesting Facebook group, that one, because who was how did Ben Oliver discover it? How did he discover my post? He was tagged in there by none other than Dave Johnson. That's the Dave Johnson,
the
cover
Reverend
artist,
Dave Johnson,
the very Reverend Dave Johnson, indeed. So let's all of that done. Let's take a little bit of a look around the Skybound world. So what else is going on in the Energon universe this week?
All around the Skybound world, are you looking for some G.I. Joe? There's Autobots and Decepticons and creatures from the sacred brain. All we need is Energon, sweet Energon. There'll be Energon everywhere. There'll be robots swinging, aliens killing, and Decepticons in the streets. Yeah!
So what is happening in the Energon universe this week? So Void Rivals, I think at time of release, this will have come out. Issue number 25, released December 24th, first part of the Energon War. Energon War, Quintesson War. So very exciting, and I think it's an exercised first issue for the Quintesson War as well, was as happened for the Dreadnok War. So that is fun, and I'm looking forward to finding out what sort of part that Pythona will play in there. I think, Tim, I'm going to do a little video at some point just recapping what's been happening to Pythona in the pages of Void Rivals. So I'll do that and put that out at some point as a bit of a recap for people, because she's had just like a couple of pages here and there, sort of scattered out over quite a few issues by this point.
The Quintesson War will be drawn by Andre Bresson, who drew the Destro miniseries, artist Connor Hughes, who drew the previous arc for Void Rivals, is skipping this arc and will draw the following arc. So this will be a very different art style for Void Rivals, because I think of Bresson's artwork as much more European war comics and American adventure style, and I think of Connor Hughes and the art that preceded him on Void Rivals as more sort of open, less sort of shading, letting the color do more of the work. There's something a little cartoony, a little modern. Futuristic is a dumb word here, but a little bit sort of animation inspired. And so the preview pages that we've been seeing for the last couple of weeks in Energon Universe comics do have a different. There we go. Do have a different feel, and that a color artist on Void Rivals, is it Patricio De Pelci? I don't have to be full screen. It's staying on the book means it'll maintain some consistency, but different art style.
Very good. And in the pages of Transformers, issue number 27 came out on the 10th of December. The following issue will be out on January the 14th. Last time, issue 17 had only just came out, so I left it without dropping too much discussion about what was happening in there. But it's quite interesting developments in terms of the character of Flag. So he had this exchange with Ultra Magnus, where essentially the thing that had been previously unsaid in terms of Ultra Magnus was sort of chained up, almost being tortured by Flag, and now Flag was all sort of buddy with Optimus Prime. So they had a bit of a confrontation about that, and I think a little bit of a justification that sort of made sense, tampered things a little bit, but didn't make complete sense. Was the Flag was saying that they didn't know very much about the Transformers at that point. He could, they were destroying cities. And so the right thing to do was, not knowing that there were goodies and baddies, was to keep him chained up. But there did seem to be a little bit of a lack of heartlessness there, beyond just sort of chaining the robot up. So not too sure if I completely buy the explanation, but there we go. Did you have any thoughts on the Flag Ultra Magnus developments, Tim?
I agree with you.
And then we had more development with Miles Mayhem. We've had a couple of pages with Miles Mayhem over the last 3 issues. First of all, we were introduced to him with this sort of shadowy organization that works for Flag. Then we found out that he was sort of doing a bit of secret development on his own and wanting to keep secrets and killing off this scientist. And then in the most recent issue, there was the confrontation between Flag and Miles Mayhem, with Flag kind of realizing that he was not acting completely above board and having a falling out. So that story is continuing, and I think we're having these parallel stories of the Miles Mayhem and Matt in pages of Transformer and Matt Tracker in the pages of G.I. Joe, and they did reference Matt Tracker in that last exchange in issue number 27. So I think you need to be reading both stories to kind of piece together the whole Mask story as that develops.
I have a thought about spin-offs and expanding the universe here. So it's too early to expect a Mask comic, and it might forever be too early to expect that, because I would read it, I would buy it, but there isn't a huge fandom, even though the toys have come back, but that's really small in terms of public knowledge. And there aren't a lot of people clamoring for, new Mask stories. And there isn't a Mask convention, as far as I know. And I was just thinking, let's say Skybound was in the next 6 months to do a Mask one-shot or miniseries. I think sort of by definition, those issues would not sell as well as G.I. Joe or Transformers issues. And then it becomes sort of a numbers game. Is it worth it for Skybound to put all of the energy of, maybe making an adjustment to its deal with Hasbro, writers, editors, approvals, finding an artist, getting all the pages, drawn and colored and lettered, and then promoting it and promoting it and promoting it? And does that confuse or dilute this very focused sort of audience awareness, which I think is finally coalesced? I think people who sort of know G.I. Joe and Transformers know that there's an Energon universe and kind of what it entails. And if you add this fourth element to it, even if it makes sense, even if some of us want it so much, it might make money, and it might make pretty good money, but the amount of effort on the part of Skybound might not be worth it. But you could tell that story a few pages at a time in the other existing Energon universe books, and there's no sort of added efforts, and there's no sort of potential downside. Like, I don't think a Mask comic would be embarrassing, but there would be all these expectations that it's gonna sell as well as G.I. Joe and Transformers, if not better, because it's a new number one. And so I think what they've been doing is smart, and I hope they keep doing it, which is a few panels or pages per issue to tell this Mask story. And even when it sort of fully forms and someone's calling it Mask and a vehicle does the thing, and Matt Tracker and Mayhem like face off, or one of them recruits some other agents and there's a team, I think even then the answer might still be keep the Energon universe to 3 series. And as a contrast, Mark, because in some recent letters pages of G.I. Joe Energon Universe and some of the other Energon Universe comics, people have written in and said, there's so many Joes or there's so many Transformers, wouldn't it make sense to do a miniseries, a special, or another series? And the answer has been several times, We are keeping it focused. We're just doing 3 books. And that way it can feel kind of special. And also we can keep the quality high. And some of us scratch our heads because, it's not that Skybound can do no wrong, but it's got a great batting average. And, if you make like 10 comics a month, what's 11? And the answer is 10% more work. But so as a contrast, folks, here's what it's like. All of these Energon Universe comics and reviews we've read and done. Here's what it's like to have this small, focused universe with just 3 ongoing series. And then, of course, there's the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Larry Hama book. So Skybound has the Hasbro license, which involves 4 monthly comics, plus, I guess, G.I. Joe reprints, the Hama files, as Mark pointed out in our last episode. That appears to now be monthly because the first 5 have been announced. So 3 G.I. Joe comics, a Transformers comic, and Void Rivals. And I'm not talking graphic novel collections. I'm just talking about single issues. So what's the nearest comparison? What's a world famous, beloved license from the 80s that a comics publisher has and is doing good work with? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Mark, I said, before you put up the next slide, I said to the manager at my shop a couple days ago, I said, Jesse, how many Ninja Turtles comics do you think there are shipping in December 2025? And he sort of chuckled because he didn't really know offhand, but he thought about it for a minute and he came up with 4. And he said, well, maybe it's one more that I'm not thinking of. 5, right? And I said, 8. There are 8 different Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics being published for December 2025. They are the regular monthly Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Next slide. The Shredder monthly. The Casey Jones miniseries, Journeys, which is a reprint of it lasted about the sort of 2000, 2001 Peter Laird, Jim Lawson black and white series, which continued what people call Mirage Volume 2, skipping Volume 3, which was the Eric Larson one. So this is a reprint series. There's the Saturday Morning Adventures, which is based on the 80s cartoon.
That's a cool idea. They should do that for G.I. Joe.
There is Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is based on the animated movie from 2 years ago and the TV or web shorts that have followed up on that. There is the Godzilla crossover, and this is a Turtles Godzilla crossover. This is not a Godzilla Turtles crossover. And lastly, Battle Nexus, where different turtles from different continuities fight each other, which is fun.
Turtles TKO.
Drawn by a bunch of different artists. And that, folks, is bi-weekly. And so if you're a Turtles fan, you might say this is a great time to be a Turtles fan. Or you might feel maybe like Transformers or G.I. Joe fans felt at IDW 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where it's actually too many to keep track of or too expensive. And, we can argue, well, some of these aren't for everyone. The Saturday Morning Adventures is for the older crowd that likes the 80s cartoon or for their kids. Sure. Right. And, if you're reading the main Turtles, you don't have to read Shredder and Casey Jones, or maybe you don't like the main series now that the writer and artist team have changed. You're just going to read Shredder. By the way, Shredder is written by Dan Waters, who wrote Destro, and it's good. But overall, as a Turtles fan, folks, I would say this is great. Also, this is a lot and too many. So be careful what you wish for, because Skybound could give us 8 G.I. Joe or 8 Transformers or 8 Energon Universe comics per month. And I bet there'd be some, fill-in artists or some, week-long delays where a comic doesn't ship on time, or you might feel like 6 of them are really good and 2 of them are okay, and I don't want that. So thank you, Mark, for putting up these slides.
Very good. So elsewhere in Skybound Publishing, just announced is the G.I. Joe issue number 8, second printing, with covers by Jason Howard. These are out 21st of January. So first up is a Raptor solo cover, and the second one is another Baroness by Jason Howard. That's surprising. He must have done Baroness by now, but you'd think, but perhaps not.
Maybe in a different costume.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, possibly only in the Duke costume before she got the star on her chest. So interestingly, they have done second printings for every issue of G.I. Joe up to issue 9 already. 9 came out before issue number 8 for the second printings, but they are missing issue number 6, which has not yet had a second printing. So, which isn't to say that it won't ever, but curious. And mostly having 2 covers, with 9, I think, just having 1 so far. So that is the world of the second printing covers, more as we get them. And speaking of covers, let's move to this bit of the show.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
Cover A is drawn and colored by Tom Reilly. Duke and Cobra Commander are both in the desert. The camera is looking up at them. Their clothes are torn. Their shirts are almost completely torn off, and they've got a little bit of the sort of scarf sort of wrapping around their necks that you get in the desert when your shirt is torn. Duke has a screwdriver in his belt pouch and is holding a rocket launcher, has goggles on. Cobra Commander is holding a, do you use that to cut meat or cut down trees? It's like a baseball bat with a blade on it.
Yeah, it's like a metal pole. It's kind of like an improvised sort of weapon, isn't it? It's like a kind of pipe with a sort of blade kind of fashioned onto it. So it's looking sort of very rusty and crude and, unpleasant to be near.
So Duke has his foot on, Duke has one foot forward and on sort of the top of a dune buggy. This is not the All-Striker, and this is not, I'm not sure that this is a Dreadnok vehicle. I guess sort of in the logic of this cover, it would have to be. But it's sort of a yellow. It's got a red seat. It looks a little worn. I think it's a one-person vehicle because there's no second seat, and it is very small compared to Duke in the scale of this picture. As with the previous covers, the background is blue sky with some light clouds, and then the bottom section of the cover is just sort of a horizon of sand. These 4 covers so far in the Dreadnok War have been more similar to each other than not. Cobra Commander, his complexion here is noticeably pale. There's a yellow sort of sand tint to it, and where all of his veins are popping because he's muscular, they're sort of bulging as this like bubblegum pink. He's still missing his robot laser hand. It's wrapped in red cloth, and this is a fun and unusual cover. And this does ask a question, which is, how did these 2 characters get like this? And also, why are they seemingly working together?
And also, I think sort of just the look of Cobra Commander is quite striking with that sort of pale skin and these very bright, vivid pink kind of veins, which I guess is leaning into the fact that he's not quite human. He's had this Cobra La treatment, which has kind of affected his skin and his look of his veins, but it kind of puts you in mind of like, some of those mutated characters from horror movies, like, I don't know, Hills Have Eyes and maybe Beneath the Planet of the Apes, that kind of thing.
Cover B is drawn and colored by Tonci Zonjic. This is a really fun cover. There's no background. There's just all one color around our 2 characters. Hound, the Autobot who transforms into a Jeep, here is in robot mode, and he is holding a Jeep, and Clutch is below it with a what's the tool that you use to remove like lug nuts? when you're fixing a
Yeah,
car.
some sort of car power tool. Yeah, that's it.
And the Jeep is casting a shadow onto Clutch and onto one of Hound's legs. The background color is sort of a lemon lime green, yellow that agrees with the Jeep color and a little bit of Hound's green color. When I first saw this very, very small, and I thought, oh, is Hound picking up that Jeep and inspecting it because he doesn't understand what it is? Like, does this change into my friend? And then I saw it full size, and I thought, oh, he's just lifting it up so his human friend can work on it. I also like that. Fun cover. Cover C, this is regular. This is not a 1 in 10. This is drawn and colored by Ben Oliver. Once again, it's this sort of what I've been calling like the Dreadnok lineup, head and shoulders. Maybe it'd be like thug yearbook photos. Maybe that's the theme, because there's a blue background with sort of a shadow. But each of the Dreadnoks here are making a face at the quote camera.
Most likely to chainsaw things up.
Buzzer is scrunching his eyes behind his tiny dark sunglasses. They're pure black. He's sort of jutting his lower jaw out a little bit as if he's got like an underbite. And there's just a lot of character in this drawing. And I don't know if we quite said it in the 3 issues previously when we were talking about these Ben Oliver covers, but Ben Oliver is not drawing a general or generic face for these Dreadnoks. He's drawing a specific person for each one. These really are portraits, and whether or not he's basing them on people that he knows or that we know or photos, I don't know, but it's not a stock face. None of these are stock faces, which means they're actually a lot more interesting, and it's really fun to spend some time with them because they have so much character.
I did ask Ben Oliver if he was thinking of anyone in particular when he was drawing this one, because I wondered because I could see a bit of like Christopher Lloyd in the face, like, you know, the baddie from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you know, something like that. He said, no, it wasn't him, and it wasn't anyone specific that he was thinking of in terms of basing it on reference. But yeah, it's a glorious face full of lots of character.
Particularly considering that you can't see his eyes, that Oliver has sort of diminished his available like tools because he has to do it with just the forehead and, you know, sort of the like angle of the head on the neck and then the cheeks and the nose and the mouth. Is it Glenn Fabry or Glenn Fabry? Who paints Preacher covers?
I say Fabry.
Okay. Glenn Fabry, I think there was a book of all of his Preacher covers, and he did commentary for them. And he made the point that he never used photo reference. He was always painting these characters over and over and over out of his head, which is why they always look a little different from each other. And I really liked reading that because that's fun. And also it's exciting or scary that an artist isn't using photo reference, because then there's, you know, something for them to base their work on.
Although the hands are definitely his hands, sort of gnarled hands holding a lighter. He has got those right immediately available to use as reference.
Cover D is the 1 in 25 ratio variance. This is drawn by Jesus Merino and colored by Adriano Lucas. This is Ripper in his Cobra costume with his crazy Jaws of Life accessory in its Cobra colors. Behind him is an explosion, which puts you in mind of the Hector Garrido 1980s G.I. Joe toy package art. This is a fun drawing. There's not a lot of black. There's very, very little spotting of blacks, just a tiny bit sort of at his crotch. Just a tiny bit of sort of inking in some of the musculature. And I don't think I quite realized that that's how Merino was inking these covers until I saw this one, because I'm so aware of the warm red of his costume and his complexion matching the red of the background. And then cover E is a 1 in 50. It's drawn by E.J. Su, who I'll say it once again because I love saying it, drew the earliest Transformers miniseries for IDW back in, 2005? I think he did the first and third and fourth miniseries, then came back later to do a special or two. This is the Thunder Machine. It is subtly rendered, and it is drawn at an isometric angle and then placed over blueprints of the Thunder Machine where you can see it from top, front, and side. But these are inverted blueprints where it's white lines on blue paper, and then the type up on top for Dreadnok War and the G.I. Joe logo are a blue and red that match the Thunder Machine. A very sharp cover, and I don't know if Skybound feels like publishing a portfolio of like enlarged prints, but these vehicle covers, I would also take just a single comic book that is like 20 or 40 covers, all the variant covers by theme. But these ones are really pretty and would look nice framed on a wall. Mark, are there any retailer variants this half month?
There is one. I was just going to point out, I got my my issue from last time in the post there. So
the
I'm
one in 50.
Not generally one to buy the variants, but I did get that the John Boy Myers issue number 15 with Roadblock. So that has arrived.
Road Pig.
So Road Pig. I do this every time. So we've just got one retailer variant this time round. So it's the companion piece to the Baroness from last time. This is Scarlett, and it is by I'm going to have to get this the right way around. It is by Carla Cohen. The credits on the inside front cover are for Lucio Perillo, who drew the Baroness for last time for last issue. And we pointed out last time round that they probably sort of crisscrossed the two credits. So that is that. We've got things slightly around versus the normal order. I have just realised because I haven't said the credits, so I should probably do that right now. So this issue is brought to us by the creative team of writer Joshua Williamson, artist Tom Reilly, colorist Jordie, Bellaire, letterer Russ, Wooton, editor Ben Abernethy, publication design Andres Juarez, and production Ashby, Florence. So the regular old team, which is very nice, as they say. Do they say? Yes, they say. So with all of that intro done, let's talk about the inside of the issue, and do that via the medium of a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
On Destro's boat, Hawk is told about the Joes working with a giant robot jeep. Destro offers to trade weapons, but Hawk isn't impressed. Cobra Commander is the one who controls the Energon, and without Energon, he has nothing. Destro sets Mercer on Hawk, who surprises everyone, kicking and shooting his way out of the situation. Elsewhere in the main story, in the Chihuahuan Desert, the Dreadnoks still have Duke and Cobra Commander captive, now tied at the stake. Buzzer cuts down Duke and proposes a game. If Duke beats Buzzer in a fight, they'll let him interrogate the commander, but in the meantime, a bonfire is lit beneath Cobra Commander. Buzzer's tormenting of Duke is interrupted by the arrival of the Joes. As the violence escalates, the Thunder Machine is activated to generate lightning, powered by Energon. Baroness rides in and rescues Duke. In the chaos, Cobra Commander escapes to a cave, followed by the Dreadnoks. He takes down Buzzer, who has followed him. Cobra Commander straps the captured chainsaw to his own arm and announces, "You want a war with me? I'll give you a war." Or, "You want a war with me? I'll give you a war." Pick one.
Yeah, when Baroness grabs Duke, wouldn't she like break his arm? Is she slowing down? She's on a motorcycle. Isn't she going like 30 miles an hour? It's like in Batman stories when someone's falling and Batman or Robin like dives after them and yells, "Go limp," and then grabs them. Because if you're tense when someone grabs you, when the Joker's thrown you off a rooftop, you'll like break some bones. But I promise you, if I was just thrown off a building, A, I can't hear Batman yelling at me, "Go limp." And B, if he did, I'd say, "Ah!" And C, if I understood what he was saying, I would not be able to make myself go limp the moment before he swoops around and grabs me. Anyway, this is a very cool and exciting issue. And maybe more than the other ones so far in the story, this felt like a very small slice of time. Yeah. Mark, did you say in the episode or to me separately, sort of how long this story takes?
It is meant to be 24 hours, I think. So yeah, it's a good point. The first part, they sort of, it started at the beginning of the day. There was a kind of daybreak, dawn scene with Duke at the graveyard of his friend as the sun is rising. By the time he's got to the desert, it feels like it's the middle of the day, sun high in the air, in the sky. The heat blazing and the very bright blue skies. Once they sort of had that confrontation and they moved to the abandoned town where Road Pig was, the sun was fading. It was sun down. We had a lot of sort of red skies. And now we're into part 4. It is definitely night. Sort of the sun is down. We've got black skies. We've got them burning, torches, sort of having, hooting and hollering for a nighttime party. And and I imagine the next issue is going to be early morning, concluding with the sun rising. Yeah.
I was struck by there's just some subtle good storytelling, both visual and sort of like pacing in the scripting here, where on the first page the even numbered panels are the Dreadnoks, and the odd number panels are Duke and Cobra Commander. You don't quite know what's going on. They've been beaten up, and they're either unconscious or they're tired and sort of physically given up. They're slumped over, and I thought, oh yeah, well, they're tied to a chair, or they're like sitting cross-legged on the ground and tied to a post. And then I turn the page, and no, they're tied to a post, and Cobra Commander is up 5 feet from the top of the pile of wood, which is already maybe 3 feet, and that's just a really satisfying control, like level of control in what one panel shows and then the next one, and you're starting to get more information, and you turn the page and there's this reveal. And we talk a lot about reveals on Talking Joe, and some of them are big and super dramatic. Some of them are like a bit of, not a punchline, but like the final page of this comic. Mark mentioned that Cobra Commander is now using the chainsaw himself. I didn't quite know what that page was going to be when I went from 19 to 20, but I knew it would be sort of deliciously evil and threatening and satisfying. And when I turned the page, I smiled, because this is Cobra Commander being his worst, and this comic being sort of a little extra pulpy, like it's a little bit of an exploitation film. It's not like fancy, like this is a beer. This is not like fine wine. I don't mean in terms of quality of writing and art. I mean in terms of like the story and its tropes and its sort of garnish. And we've now gotten so many issues drawn and colored by this team of Reilly and Bellaire that I'm already sort of I'm already taking it for granted. Like, well, of course G.I. Joe is going to look excellent. Like, no, Tim, there's no guarantee. And I like Andre Brisson's work on Destro. He's not who I would have picked to draw 5 or 6 issues of Void Rivals, and I think it'll be good, and I think I'll enjoy it. But it's so different. I know that first issue and that second issue, I'm going to be sort of not fighting it, but adjusting, very much adjusting, because the book has been really dynamic and smooth, and those aren't the 2 words I'd use to describe this art change. And in a couple of months, someone else could be drawing G.I. Joe who's very good, but not, my top pick. But just every panel that Tom Reilly draws is like doing its job with both subtlety and flair. And he's just sort of maximizing all these moments where Joshua Williamson sets up like a moment of expectation and then surprises you, or a moment of closure where like you think something's going to happen and it does, and you go, yeah. Or someone gets to be, tough. Someone gets to be funny. Someone gets to be vulnerable. It's just the art and color here, the layouts, the inking. Reilly is not cutting any corners. Everyone always looks good. It's just really satisfying and gorgeous.
And and looking at the art, sort of, I'm constantly struck how sort of easy Tom Reilly makes it look. He sort of draws with this lightness of touch, where particularly with the faces, they can be very, very just minimal line work, let's say, very clean, uncluttered, but doing, each line sort of is doing so much. Every face is looking different. Every expression is purposeful, and there's so much still on every single page. And then when combined with Bellaire's colors, it just sort of pops so magnificently. And you sort of go from a page like this, where you've kind of got a lot of muted colors, but then you've got these pops of color for the dialogue. You've got sort of the emphasis on Duke in the foreground, and you switch to the next panel, same location, but then you've got these pops of the sort of the violence from Buzzer chainsawing Duke down off of the stake. And the intense flames coming then from Ripper, who's sort of setting fire to this bonfire beneath Cobra Commander. And we're setting up some big stakes here. It's Duke, exactly. Yeah, Duke is sort of about to have a chainsaw duel, and they really go for it. It's let's cut to the next bit of the scene. This is a nasty old slice to his back from a Buzzer on his chainsaw hand, and Cobra Commander is up there tied to the pole, with the fire beneath him, and he's setting out the Dreadnok mission statement here as well. The Dreadnoks aren't the bad. No, what sort of Buzzer like is? The Dreadnoks aren't the bad guys here. We don't care. We don't care about taking over the world. We don't care about having the best toys. We only care about money and parties. Yeah, and grape soda. We care about grape soda, says Torch on the following page.
Just go back a page, would you, to where Torch is starting? To set
turning
fire?
On his flamethrower.
Yeah, I'll just say 2 more things about Tom Reilly. Look at how much work he's doing in his inking here on Torch to show highlights versus shadows. And when he signed at my store, Hub Comics in Somerville, Massachusetts, a couple of days after G.I. Joe issue number 1 came out, I saw him up close for a minute drawing both, Mark, your sketch of Major Blood and my sketch of Duke on those blank sketch covers. And I sort of thought that he would draw really fast because they were, quote, just convention sketches, store signing sketches. They weren't full-blown commissions, and they weren't, pages for the issue. And man, he was being really purposeful and careful with his hand and the pens he was using. And I thought, I think this is just how he draws. And it was with great precision, more than I thought I would see. Do you want to get back into that Dreadnok scene, or you want to jump back?
Let's keep on with the Dreadnoks. So we're, as Duke is wont to, he's got himself in a duel.
That's not a pun. That's just funny because it's true.
Yep. And I'm sure there was some thought and intent there. About some, got to have some sort of arena of death type situation going on with Duke. Look at Cobra Commander here again. Every time with Cobra Commander, he's got these magnificent reflections in his mask. I'll see if I could just do a bit of a
but also look at his eye,
zoom on,
or whatever that is, where an eye might be in the shadow of his face, where the faceplate has been cracked. Even though we kind of know what he looks like because we've seen several angles of him a bit here and there with some shadows, we still don't have this full reveal. And this is a really fun reminder of sort of an early core feeling around G.I. Joe in 82, 83, 84. What does Cobra Commander look like? Mm-hmm. And also, what does Snake Eyes look like? But, the comic book had a take. The animated series had a take, the toy sort of had a take. And I remember when the animated movie appeared and Cobra Commander turns out not to be a Caucasian guy, I thought, I guess the toy for hooded Cobra Commander, where you can see his skin around his eyes through the two eye holes, I guess that's makeup. Like I needed to write sort of an explanation for myself. And I thought, I wouldn't have wanted him to have sort of pale, slightly like mint green skin around his eyes when, my brother got the mail away hooded Cobra Commander, because they didn't know that the animated movie was going to sort of create that story point later on. But also that would have been strange. But this is such a fun, this is a sinister mood, but also let me go back a step. I guess it's right. It's this panel. It's this page. Can you go to a full view on this page, or the bottom middle? What's so interesting about this scene is that Cobra Commander is not concerned. He's not saying anything. He's not struggling. He's not even moving a little bit. He's not even saying something like, like "come closer, flames," or like "foolish Dreadnoks." He's just waiting. And I thought maybe he doesn't feel pain. Maybe he knows something that I don't. He definitely knows something that I don't. And then he does something with this, but I kept, we cut back to him another time or two after this panel. And I thought, what is he waiting for? Why isn't he struggling? And he's very smart and sinister.
And there's a consistency there as well, because if you remember that torture scene with the Dreadnoks back in Cobra Commander miniseries, he was kind of that quiet, kind of not giving anything away, not struggling, shouting, sort of just that imperceptible kind of mask of, not knowing what he's thinking. But yeah, definitely being quite cool, calm, collected, and sort of thinking ahead to kind of how eventually he'll get out of there, which of course he does, but not on this page. So the Duke is they're pretty much coming in for the for the kill. Buzzer says to him after Duke is the stoic, heroic thing. I never regret doing the right thing. As Cobra Commander's boots, the flames are licking his boots. So look at the textures in that panel. Crikey, what a world we're living in.
Yeah, what Reilly is doing is he's drawing two leather boots that have flames licking them and past them, and have also started to burn and melt. And there are some diagonal lines which are showing sort of the flame, like little licks of flame sort of wafting past his like ankles and shins, but then down where his toes would be, the leather is cracking, and then the bottom it's starting to drip. And you know, it's like visually, this is like the least important panel in the whole comic. It's like, the boots are on fire. Like in terms of a dramatic moment, it's near the middle. It's pretty high, but even this, he's drawing with great specificity. And there's sort of 4 things happening here. And then, you know, Bellaire and having some of the yellows sort of glow over the red lines, which are like holds from the black lines of the inking. It's adding to this, you know, the illumination of the fire. And then the panel after it, there are some like sparks, which I think come from the movie poster for Rise of Cobra, the movie poster for like Dark Knight Rises. But Reilly, we've pointed this out before. Reilly will like 5 or 10% cartoon or caricature a face when someone's like getting excited or yelling, and it's not quite happening on this page, but later on it happens with Buzzer. But look at that arc, that yellow arc on we're on page 3, 5, 7, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Page 9, panel 5, where Buzzer's saying, "I'll be sure to carve that into your tombstone," and he's swinging his chainsaw up over him and his shoulder, and there's this like wraparound S-curve, like lasso hula, you know, glow trail that doesn't correspond. It's not like he dipped his chainsaw in gasoline and lit it on fire. Like that's not actual light. That's just flare. It's just visual flare between Reilly and Bellaire. Like Reilly might have intended that to be black and had no sense that Bellaire was going to color that. And, you know, it could have been like orange or a different red, but it's like glowing yellow. I guess it sort of represents like light reflecting off of the chainsaw as he whips it past you, but still totally gorgeous.
Yeah. So yeah, he's about to, Buzzer makes the threat after Duke's stoic line there. "I never regret doing the right thing. I'll be sure to carve that into your tombstone," and then vroom. What? Hey, wait a sec. You hear that? Ain't that just your chainsaw, mate? No, that's the greatest sound of all. Vroom. Dun 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 dun. It's the Joes.
So you turn the page, and the top half of the spread is a double page spread. It's the top half of the left page, the top half of the right page, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Joes driving in 5 vehicles, 2 motorcycles, a Jeep, who's probably an Autobot, an All-Striker, asterisk, let's come back to this. Have we seen the All-Striker before? And then a sort of transport helicopter, which is not the Tomahawk, but is something that I've seen in like my brother's books or magazines. But what I didn't notice the first time I read this was behind all of them in the sky is the G.I. Joe star and 3 stripes logo, and it's streaking across from right to left, and Jordie Bellaire has it slightly glowing, and I don't know if that's in the original art or maybe I don't know if this is in the art or the color, but it's so fun. Okay, so all right, the moment when in a story like this, Duke has his sort of comeuppance, like, I'm actually going to be okay, mean Dreadnoks, my friends are here, right? Like, you're about to get beat down, right? Like, yo, Joe, right? Like, I'm a real American hero. Whatever it is, I can see it starting to happen on the page before, where he says, no, that's the greatest sound of all. And as I'm turning the page, I'm starting to sort of write the next panel description in my mind. Well, it's definitely a full page. Maybe it's a double page splash. I was half right. And the question is, which Joe or Joes is it? Is it maybe Hound by himself? Is it, are they coming like down a hill at us? Are they coming down from the sky? Are they zooming right to left, left to right? You know, what? And is it one Joe or two Joes or five Joes, right? So the specifics I don't know. But in terms of the story beat, like, it's not Cobra Commander having freed himself, you know, being like, I had the chainsaw. You didn't even notice me take it from you, Buzzo. It's not that. And it's not some other party. It's not like a bunch of the locals who are like, you beat up our friend Road Pig. It's definitely the Joes or something like the Joes. So I turn the page, and what I don't want is Joshua Williamson to overplay his hand and have something here happen, which is like the comic knows that it's a comic and it's winking at me. And that does not happen, right? Like, have I used this example in Star Trek First Contact when the three Enterprise crew are on the outside of the Enterprise fighting the Borg, and Worf has his Batlev, his curved Klingon fighting sort of blade, and he walks up to a Borg and he says, assimilate this. And at the time, I really liked that line. And then my roommate, this was in college, said, I hate that line. I said, why? And he said something like, because that's what Worf says, because he knows he's in a movie and people are watching it are going to be like, yeah, awesome. It's not actually what Worf would say. And so I'm aware of writers being too cheeky in this regard. And this, when I turn the page, is not too cheeky. It hits the right note, right? Like, Duke knows he's somehow being rescued, and we're going to get some moment, some little burst of like, you know, I mean, you started to sort of sing the theme song, right? Like, you got the feeling too, but like, I don't need like, in the background, Risk on one motorcycle saying, wherever there's trouble. And then like Baroness finishing the line for him and saying like, we'll be there. It's like, no. You don't know that you're in G.I. Joe. This is a real thing and you might die. So you have to like be quiet when you're supposed to be quiet and not like, anyway, so thumbs up. I like this moment. It hit the right note of like, yes, Tim, you love G.I. Joe, you know, moments, but we didn't go too far.
And this could just be a splash page of the Joes arriving. That would have been great on its own. But then we've also got so much else happening with these little these little grid of 8 panels below there. Again, so much happening. Ripper, glorious line. Time to nut up or shut up. Grab your guns. Clutch spotting Duke. Cobra Commander, his ropes taking light with a flitouche and then falling away from the pyre with a thump. Buzzer getting caught unawares by Duke, grabbing his ponytail. You know, it is a hazard of having a ponytail.
There is a 10% cartooned face.
Absolutely. There's a little bit on the previous pages as well in terms of some of Buzzer's reactions. I think he's having some fun with Buzzer, sort of, you know, turning the dial there and what he can do with that face of his. So he's grabbing his ponytail, yanking him down. We've also got the reaction from Cover Girl here, who's piloting the helicopter in the red. So she's illuminated in red. We don't see her in one of the other vehicles, and the cockpit of the helicopter is red. You know, as we see it from, you know, so getting nice little visual cues telling us that's going to be Cover Girl in the helicopter. And she's saying, I don't think that's Cobra, because up to this point, they don't really know what the Dreadnoks are, especially, I don't think. They've not counted them before, so I think they've gone here knowing that Duke is probably in trouble. Maybe it's some Transformers, maybe it's Cobra. Who are these guys? And they sort of, there's a nice little line later on in the issue. In terms of what is on that top panel, we're surprised a little bit because we didn't know who would be there. We knew that Clutch and Cover Girl would be on their way, and Clutch wanted to bring a friend. I think we now realise that his friend was Hound, unless there's going to be another friend also arriving later on.
So that cannon right behind clutch is Hound's shoulder mounted like laser missile thing. So that is Hound. That's not our regular Jeep. And also you can see an Autobot symbol over the tire.
Yeah. And so it is a transformer that the Clutch is driving, but he doesn't do any transformery things yet so far in this particular issue. The Joe helicopter is a sort of fairly generic Chinook helicopter, a Boeing Chinook, which is, I think, quite widely used by Western forces. And as you say, we also get an Ore Striker, which I almost didn't think about when I first saw, because it's G.I. Joe. Of course, there's going to be Ore Strikers and things, but this I think is the first time we sort of see the vehicle in this issue. And the interesting thing for me, it was almost the omission that when you think of an Ore Striker, you think of the cannon up the top.
Yeah.
And where's the cannon? So I'm guessing they might have a reason for leaving it out, that there might be a story point somewhere down the road where.
Have we seen an All Striker at all in the Energon universe?
I don't think so. No, I think this is the first appearance.
I think it's going to be an Energon powered weapon. Oh, are you talking about like it may be a transformer?
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe they capture Megatron's arm and attach it to the roof or something. But I think they I don't think it's going to be that. But there'll be a story point where they capture some sort of Energon weapon and mount it on the Ore Striker or something, because it feels like. Yeah, the gun's up the top, right? If it isn't up the top, then it's probably going to be put up there at some later stage. That's my sense, anyway.
I think the camera's there. That's fun. I remember how sort of confused and disappointed I was. Disappointed is too strong. I remember when my brother and I were each building our All Strikers, which I think might mean my brother was building our All Strikers, because I remember the Silver Mirage was really hard to build. I think our dad helped us. And then I think the All Striker was too hard for me, and my brother sort of built mine. And there's that camera that's mounted on the dashboard. And I remember saying, "What's that?" Oh, yeah. And my brother said, "It's a camera." And I thought, "Huh." This is once again. So Cobra Commander, the flames snap his bonds, and when he lands, I feel like there is. Joshua Williamson's script is calling out some really specific things for Tom Reilly, or Tom Reilly is picking up on the occasional vague description, general description, and really picking sort of the right amount of like go left or go right, go up or go down on a moment, an expression, a pose. That he's really plussing it, because Cobra Commander looks passive here in that first panel. And when he lands, this is not like sort of the moment after he lands when he's starting to pick himself up and he's already thinking of revenge and his plan. This is almost like, it's almost like he's asleep. I'm not saying he is, but in terms of his body language, when he lands, thump, that's not the landing of someone who's like 1/2 second later is going to start attacking. That he's been, it's not that he's been beaten down, and it's not that he's been defeated. It's that he's like a predator lying in wait, and he just like lands because the fire doesn't concern him, and the fall from 5 feet up doesn't concern him, and if he stands up and he's too close to the fire, doesn't concern him, and it's but for just sort of tumbling onto the ground, there's a lot of information in that pose.
Very good. So how does the story progress next? Another just amazing page. Colors from Jordie Bellaire sort of make this book a delight. It's Dreadnok action. It's Zorana with associated non-named Dreadnoks, and yeah, there's fun to have. If you linger on any one of those, there's a kind of guy with a kind of samurai armor. There's a guy with a sort of tiny little pistol behind them. There's another.
Zoom in on this first panel.
Yeah.
There's the guy with the hat and an eye patch and a bandana over his hat, and he's got a shotgun. Yeah, there's what I also like about this scene is that it's not like okay, I expected all of these sort of made up Dreadnoks to all get picked off easily and quickly, and that's not what's happening. So every time Joshua Williamson is defying my expectations, I get a little surge of joy because I get a little surprise or big surprise because, you know, surely none of these like lesser Dreadnoks are going to make it through this story and then become like actual Dreadnoks. And surely they're just here as fodder, right? Like surely Williamson isn't going to kill off any of the regular Dreadnoks, but none of these are guarantees.
Not at all. Yeah. So we get a delightful sequence with Road Pig and holding up this sort of minigun. Get off my lawn.
Gatling gun.
Is it a Gatling gun? Minigun? I don't know. Yeah, one of the two.
It's like what Duke has on the cover to issue 0 of IDW's G.I. Joe from was it 2007? Yeah. Or
the Jesse Ventura kind of Predator kind of gun. That sort of thing. Yeah. Right. And then Cobra Commander slithering away like a snake into a cave, pursued by Buzzer. Again, Buzzer just looks, you know, so much character. Every panel of Buzzer just he's great. I love the way that Reilly is making him look, sort of like this sort of gaunt, just slightly over the top. Throughout the issue, he's got this sort of bandage around his neck because let's not forget that he had a chunk of his neck bitten out by Cobra Commander last issue. So he is chasing Cobra Commander.
Zoom back in. This is page 3, 5, 7. Sorry, 9, 11, 13. This is panel 3 on page 13. When you were this zoomed in, he starts to be a little more blocky and flat, like Mike Mignola or artists who draw like that. Like some of these sort of shadow lines on him. But also the way that Reilly's drawing his teeth, you know, like they're not fangs. He's not drawing them perfectly. He's applying a little bit of a loose style to them, but it works. And there's so much dynamism, you know, like the curl of his hair that's going up, the curl of his hair that's going down, sort of, you know, how his right arm is cocked back, the negative space between his legs where, can you scroll down a little bit? Another Dreadnok is getting sort of knocked off their feet. Oh, geez. It's getting cut in half. Wow. Well, I guess some Dreadnoks do die. And then if you could scroll over and pull out a little bit for the previous panel where Cobra Commander is trudging to a cave and his costume is smoking. So it definitely caught fire. And again, I looked at this panel when I'm reading this comic and I thought, I don't know what Cobra Commander is thinking. And that is, that's authentically creepy because, you know, it's like in the torture scene in issue 2 or 3 of Cobra Commander where you just see his mask and you don't know what he's actually doing, but the blood smile is on his face. We don't see his face here because he's walking away from us, but he's not saying anything. He's not saying like, must regroup or, you know, I'll have my revenge or come follow me, Dreadnoks. He's just walking. And I think he's okay. He looks not okay, but it's like, no, he's definitely okay because he's so powerful.
Yeah, he's a resilient kind of guy, but yeah, you can see, you know, on the back of his shirt that obviously it's burnt through, and I think that black is the kind of the burnt, cindered flesh on the back of his. On
the bottom of this panel, this is page 13, panel 2. On the bottom of this panel, on the bottom right, is I think the front of the chainsaw.
Right.
You see this sort of round arc with some like triangles. So I think that's in the foreground that Buzzer has actually almost caught up with him.
Yeah. I don't know that was completely clear from the colours, but I think you're right. That's probably what that is trying to signal. So where are we next? Buzzer is after Cobra Commander. Zorana is ordering some of the unnamed Dreadnoks, again looking glorious, to go after him and help him get the bastard, as it were. And Duke is very much still rallying behind Cobra Commander. Joe, stop them! They'll kill him. And now,
I don't know that they would hear him.
No,
he doesn't have a communication device in his ear, I don't think, and he's not at full strength. And there's the sounds of battle on motorcycles and a helicopter, but I'll allow it.
So Road Pig picks up. See, Road Pig is caricatured here. He is massive. He picks up Duke over the top of his head. Not so fast, Blondie. Your friends are trying to hurt my new friends. And as a page turn, double page. How is this for a double page? Tom Reilly, are you taking a holiday on this book? You're just phoning it in. Wow.
When I turned to this page, right, I was worried. Batman comics in the 90s have me worried. If a giant character picks up another character who's really tired and has been working too hard, I think, oh no, Bane's going to break Batman's back. Oh no, Road Pig's going to break Duke's back. And I thought, well, I wouldn't put it past this crazy comic. So I was sort of relieved as I turned the page, and A, it didn't happen. B, it wasn't like a splash page of that or something like it happening. But then C, I just chuckled out loud, because as a splash page, there's so much exciting battle happening here. And, the like sort of covetous art collector in me thought, buy these 2 pages. Do it, Tim. Do it right now. Are they on sale? And then I started, no, enjoy the story. You're still reading the comic. And then I thought, because for a second I thought, oh, is the issue going to end with Duke being horribly injured? And when I turned the page, I saw the 2 staples. They're not technically staples, but we'll call them staples. And I thought, oh, thank goodness, we're only halfway through the issue. And then that's when I sort of chuckled out loud, because every panel in here, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. There are 20 panels on this double page spread, right? So 10 panels per page averaging, which is more than a lot of comics. And Reilly's drawing a lot of complicated things, like a crazy weapon, a guy with a machine gun, a guy throwing a guy, a couple difficult to draw vehicles, some like very specific fight, punch, run, block poses. And then on the bottom, there's this very different moment where Road Pig is almost in silhouette and is holding this crazy weapon of his. And it becomes this moment of like mythology or legend. It becomes primal because there's this giant, and I don't quite know how much here Reilly drew of the lightning and the sky, and how much Bellaire drew just in color, but there's this crazy lightning bolt, and the pose on Road Pig looks like, like a god, like a mythical hero, a demigod from not a G.I. Joe story. And suddenly the scale of this fight sort of ramps up, right? Suddenly it's like by a factor of 10, like, oh, it's not, I don't think Cybertron's going to show up. I don't think a Transformer's going to show up, but something in that direction that changes everyone's calculus. And this is even sort of after this really fun reveal that Zorana says, I'll let you talk about this, something, and then the Thunder Machine does something we've never seen it before, do before. And that would have never occurred to me.
Yeah. That's why it's called the Thunder Machine, because it creates giant bolts of thunder in the air. Right. And then plot twist is is Road Pig the god of thunder? You've got a big muscly guy with a giant metal hammer holding it aloft into the air, and I guess if bolts of Energon lightning are zapping down to the ground and you're holding a metal hammer in the air, it's, you know, you're the highest thing on a flat surface with a metal. You're going to conduct that lightning. If you shoot someone with Energon guns, they're definitely done for. If you get zapped with a giant Energon lightning bolt, I'm guessing you're a bit fried, but you'll probably be okay.
I don't think it's technically an Energon lightning bolt. I think Energon caused a lightning storm to happen, and it's regular lightning. Because I don't think Road Pig is dead, or that Williamson is being inconsistent with his Energon deadliness power levels. Mark, what do you think about...
I will defer to your Energon science, Dr. Finn.
Mark, what do you think about what Zorana says and what the Thunder Machine does?
So she says, let's show them that we were playing with Energon long before the commander stole it from us, because after all, when we're introduced to Energon, it's the Dreadnok swamp. They've got stores of Energon which they've been collecting and selling to Destro, and Cobra Commander steals it from them. This is back in the Cobra Commander miniseries. So she pulls a lever, let's make some thunder. It flips up that sort of what I always thought was like an aeroplane engine that was sort of sat on the back of the Thunder Machine, levers it up so it's pointing to the air, and Zap-Badoom shoots up this bolt into the air, which then causes the thunder to come down. And it makes sense. It's the Thunder Machine. If it can make thunder, that's a good reason for it to be called the Thunder Machine. So I quite, it's weird and it's different, but I think it's quite a fun innovation.
The colors on this double page spread are both nuts. They're both artistic and emotional, but also realistic and sort of, realistic. There's still some, pink character in front of a blue background. There's still like a sort of grayish violet knockout person with like fiery orange behind them. But then that final panel, I really like this final panel for another reason, of Clutch looking up, because I feel like one of the many things I appreciate about this comic is that Williamson is keeping track of so many things. I've said this before, like who knows who knows what, who hasn't met who doesn't know what yet, who doesn't know that someone knows or doesn't know something yet. And good writers keep track of that stuff. And that line early on when CoverGirl says, "I don't think these are the Dreadnoks." I think that's a helpful line. And here it's Clutch who we see the reaction shot. It's not Duke because he's sort of half knocked out. It's not any of the other Joes. It's Clutch because he's the one now with the most experience of this larger world universe, because he's driving an alien robot Jeep. And so he sees something sort of out of scale and unnatural happening. And I don't know that Williamson definitely needed to pick, or definitely decided to pick Clutch for this reaction shot. Part of this is I'm just glad that Williamson thought, we should squeeze, or maybe Reilly added it, a reaction shot of one of the Joes, because this is such a crazy moment before you turn the page and the lightning starts, and then it starts zapping, and then it zaps someone. We need to check in with what the reaction or reactions are. And I feel like there's an added weight because it's Clutch, because he knows that he's already sort of moved beyond, we can never go back, because he's got an alien robot friend and he's keeping a secret. But now he, sees this on the other side as well. I wonder, Mark, in a previous, was it 1 or 2 issues ago, you and I talked about, there was a Joshua Williamson interview where Williamson talked about sending a photo of the Thunder Machine toy to Tom Reilly so Reilly could get something right, because he was adding a toyetic feature to it. And you and I thought that it was that roof panel springboard launcher from an issue or 2 ago. And was it also drawing this turbine engine rocket thruster thing exactly right so that it can, angle up at 90 degrees. It's also fun because as a kid, I understood that part of the Thunder Machine was out of proportion with the rest of it, but it was just such a cool vehicle. It was such a cool design that it's like, it's like the back of the Batmobile in the 1989 Batman. Like, no, that's thrust. That's fire. It's just a rocket, and it's very dangerous and wonderful. So I'm glad that Williamson has found something else for that crazy part of the Thunder Machine to do. And I just want to repeat something that you said earlier on. Hound does not transform. He still does not transform despite this sort of escalation of power levels and stakes.
Yeah, but he does knock down a bunch of Dreadnoks. so is Hound killing these guys, or is it Clutch? Who's taking responsibility here?
I think it's okay. So when they show up, Clutch has a hand on the wheel and a hand on the gear shift. So I'm going to say Clutch is actively driving. Also, the next panel, the panel after the one you just pointed to, Stalker is blowing away several Dreadnoks. So the Joes are seriously injuring or killing Dreadnoks here.
Yep. So the lightning goes off. Baroness comes in on the motorcycle to rescue Duke. Doesn't break his arm as she pulls him onto the bike. We get a bit of exposition that they're able to sort of track, I guess, the dead zone where the signal is being blocked, and to isolate it for there. And again, exposition. They were on a mission for Hawk, but they got back just in time as Clutch was leaving. And then they are all together, hero shot. We did not expect a Dreadnok War. Glorious bit of dialogue there, as they don't know who these guys are. It's like, why are we fighting? What's this war with the Rednecks? Where did this come from? So
I think Kirkman's from Tennessee. So
right, okay.
I think he's allowed to use that word. You had mentioned that this story all takes place in a day, in 24 hours, and on the first page, in pages 2 and 3, I don't know if it's like 11 p.m. or 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., but I feel like now, this page we're on, now it's like 5 a.m., 4:30 a.m., and the sky is getting lighter. Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, look at Duke's eye on this page. That's gnarly.
Zoom in on that, but zoom in to the right of it, because Reilly, this might be the only time in this issue, and that's still plenty. Dry brush on the clouds. He's painting that, or not dry brush, ink wash. He's painting that with a diluted ink so that it comes out as gray and very soft. That's not like drawing with a pen or drawing with pure black ink. I do want to point out that this thing happens in this comic, particularly in this issue, with Duke's terrible wound across his back from a chainsaw that had definitely not been sanitized beforehand. There's this thing that happens in this comic and in movies where someone gets cut or shot and they're like, oh no. And then like the next scene, it's just stopped bleeding because the movie needs them to not bleed out. Like they have to like stop the aliens or like defuse the bomb. So, like maybe off panel, Stalker ran over with some, bacitracin, some like aloe, but it's not even that. Like, that's not like, it's not a very shallow wound. That's a very complicated wound made by many, many sharp things on a rotate. Anyway, it's okay. I don't want Duke to die. I don't want him to bleed out. And I don't need the story to slow down. So someone's like, wait, let me stitch you up. Or like, let me just put this gauze on you. But a little part of me thinks he'd be dying. Okay.
And he's got this cut across his back. He's also got a cut across his front that is sort of coloured more like an existing kind of scar, which sort of talks to the wound that he's got on the front cover. He's got that sort of giant scar across his front. So maybe that is prior to this mission.
I don't remember where that showed up, but we saw that in the Duke miniseries.
Okay,
I think, and that is a reference to the 1964 GI Joe action soldier, sailor, marine, and pilot figure. All of the 1960s and 70s 12-inch GI Joe figures, all the action figures, all the adventure team figures, they all had a scar on their right cheek. That was a way that Hasbro was making this figure unique, and Channing Tatum has it in the live action movie, even though it's not a thing that really belongs to Real American Hero. Sort of for the rest of the world, like when GI Joe goes beyond in the Energon universe, that's the reference. It's not because he wants to be like Zaymod. It's because that's a thing GI Joe did in the 60s.
I was more referencing the scar across his front, across his torso, rather than across his face.
Not the one on his face.
Yes.
Excuse me.
And then flicking forward, the Dreadnoks are on a Cobra Commander hunt. It's going to be a good one. They're not scared, but maybe they should be, because Buzzer is sort of lying here in an undetermined amount of trauma. His goggles are bust up. He's got blood coming out of his nose and mouth, and there's blood on the rock next to him. It looks like maybe he's bashed the back of his head against that or some such,
or the front of his head.
Yeah. And then we've got a sort of an insert panel with Cobra Commander. I do not run, as he seems to be connecting Buzzer's chainsaw to his own hand, which, let's not forget, he's also had hand trauma. So there's a gap there. There's a space there going to be filled, and we conclude on that voice coming out at the Dreadnoks, spooking them. You want a war with me? I'll give you a war. Splash page, bzzz, as he's bearing down on them with the now in control of the Buzzer chainsaw hand.
So I do think that it's a little bit of a stretch that Cobra Commander's hand would fit so easily and quickly into this chainsaw thing. It's sort of like. Okay, it's different technology, right? And maybe you know what I mean? Like, it's not like
I don't think it's that technically advanced. I think he's basically ramming his hand into
and there's a button that is like
and there's a gap in there,
and his mangled finger can sort of push or tug. Sure.
Well, there might even be an external control that his other hand uses. Although they've got an insinuation here that there's sort of wires coming out of the back of it and into his wrist. But
if I'm thinking hard about this,
that looks cool.
If I'm thinking hard about this wouldn't work. Like you need two panels where like Cobra Commander is like checking, or he's opened up the side and he's like attaching an electrode to like the other thing, or fixing two wires that got severed. But the same thing would happen, right? If we take two panels for him to actually sort of attach, we'd still have this moment. So we can skip it for sake of drama on a big splash page. And it is a lot of fun. And it is this funny remixing of established stuff, or sort of adding on to things, like there's no. I'm going to take this accessory for one toy and give it to the other toy. Yeah. And so some of it is sort of toyetic, because as a kid you may have taken or as an adult with classified figures just this year, who am I to judge? You might have taken your Dreadnok chainsaw and given it to someone else. You might have given. Plenty of times my brother and I thought that the weapon that came with a Joe or Cobra either didn't fit physically or wasn't a good visual. So we just gave them a different weapon, one that wasn't being used. And, but also in terms of like, Williamson has Major Blood have two eyes, and then he loses an eye, but then he loses the other. And then he gets two implant eyes. And so what are the ways that the Energon universe can sort of plus or layer sort of visuals or meaning in that way that like we're still waiting for the Baroness to become a bad guy, and then the star on her chest is a cobra symbol. You know, I don't know at what point Williamson's like, oh, Cobra Commander is missing a hand. Well, he can have the chainsaw. Or if he planned it from the beginning, like, no, I'm going to have his robot hand blown up so that he can get the chainsaw. I mean, certainly he had the robot hand blown up because he needed to depower Cobra Commander.
Here's the thing, talking about the Baroness and turning to Cobra. If anything, she's going the wrong way. She's been too much of a hero. She's saving Duke, and when she saves him, what does she shout? It's not even Duke, it's Conrad. So they're quite... they're on friendly terms here.
Yeah, that reminds me of the first live action movie where they're dating. Okay, so this thing happens on this final page where a character doesn't refer to the title of the story, but they almost sort of do. And I make a lot of Marvel comparisons because I'm a Marvel guy, but I read Dark Horse and Image and DC. Don't worry, folks. And after a bunch of those big events like Civil War and Secret Invasion, a couple times characters would refer to them like, no, we fought in the Civil War, and then there was a Secret Invasion. It's like, no, you can call it like the superhero Civil War, but it wasn't a war. You know, wars are like months and years long, and it's on a bigger scale than like 15 heroes fighting 15 other heroes for like, I don't know, 3 weeks. But that word just sounds great in titles. It sounds better than battle or fight, you know? And so when Baroness says, what did she say? We did not, but we did not expect a redneck war. I thought, oh, that's fun. Williamson is referring to the title of the story a little bit sideways, and it doesn't draw a lot of attention to itself because it's not like she read the script to the comic and knows what the comic is called. And then when Cobra Commander does it here, it's also not over the line, but it is taking a couple steps toward the line. So I don't like 5 issues from now. I don't want someone to be like, remember the Dreadnok War? Like, no, they can say things like, remember our like scrap or our melee or our melee or our conflict or our assaults in the desert. I mean, you sort of use any other word or like our incident, because this is an incident, right? If you have like 20 Dreadnoks fighting 5 Joes for like 2 hours on the cover of the comic for solicitations for my store, is it a war? Absolutely. Is it a war? No.
Yeah, and Stalker gets home to his wife. I don't know if he's got a wife or not in continuity, but he gets home. They ask, "How did you go? How did your day go, Lonzo?" Lonzo, and he says, "Well, there was an incident at work. They would never conjure up this particular story. But this wasn't the only thing that happened in this issue, because there was a continuation of that Hawk storyline. So he has landed on Destro's boat and is surprised with a mission. And it sounds like Destro thinks that he's got all of the cards, but he hasn't got the cards. And Hawk is unimpressed by all of his patter. He's not taken aback by the fact that he's told that the Joes have got a giant robot jeep. It probably is news to him, but he doesn't let that on because he just said, that's it. That's all the info you wanted to trade. Sounds like we've got the upper hand. And then he's got weapons, but they're just they need to be powered by Energon, and Cobra Commander is the Energon guy, and Destro is deflated, and to the extent that he asks Mercer to take care of him. And Destro, he's a talker, he's a negotiator, he's a deal maker. He's sort of made deals with Cobra Commander, with Chameleon, with the Crimson Twins. Here he's just resorting to violence.
There are many things I like about this 3-page scene. On the third panel of this scene, of this page, one of the Cobra officers or soldiers behind Destro is taking that rifle off of his shoulder, which we see in the previous panel. And then he's taking it off, and now he's handed it to Destro, and Destro has it. I like that. Just a little bit of small nuts and bolts continuity. I like that this giant underlit table board, computer map thing that they're sitting at has a bunch of cables going into it. On that second panel where Mercer says, "Damn right, Hawk, saw it with my own two eyes." I like that. I like artists remembering some of that business, just the bits that equipment would have. On the third page of this scene, I had a question. When
look at Destro's face here when Hawk.
That's the next thing I was going to say. All right, I'll go in that order. Thank you. Destro's expressions throughout this scene are amazing. That when we first see him, and he's grabbing the rifle, he's tipped his head back. This is the panel above the one you've got. And there's just a couple of small bits of ink, but Reilly has left in these two tiny dots for Destro's eyes in the shadows. And it still reads as metallic, and it still reads as a mask. And doing that on such a tiny amount of geography with so few lines is not easy. And if I haven't said it as this sentence, I want to say it now. After all these issues of Reilly's art, Reilly does so much with so little. He can draw a lot of detail and textures, but he is pulling off so much. He's communicating so much information with very few actual marks. And this is an example of that. And then in the next panel, so his smirk is to the right, if you would, where he's now presenting the rifle.
Okay, sorry.
It's still a smirk, but it's a different smirk, right? Because now an eyebrow is very slightly cocked, and then down in the middle, that one that you wanted to show, where you said, "Look at Destro's expression here," right? Like when I got to this. When I was reading it, I thought, well, Mark and I have to talk about this panel because he's disappointed, and you can tell that he's sort of starting to change his mind about something, but he's also turning his head because now he's speaking with someone who's, walked up to him. And that is a great expression. And we've had many, many artists draw Destro over the years, different continuities of Destros, and there's so much communicated here and so much subtlety. So then here's one of these page turns where I'm ready for Williamson to surprise me with a level of violence and that someone's going to be harmed or killed who I thought was safe in the Energon universe. Oh no, Mercer's going to kill Hawk, or oh no, he's going to seriously injure Hawk. And I sort of winced, took a breath as I turned the page, and no, there's this very fun and funny surprise. And it gets to be funny because look at Mercer's expression. Mercer's surprised, right? And then this is sort of this wily, sly, Bugs Bunny moment in the next panel. I'll be taking that, right? Where he grabs sidearm, right? And then man, you could have me color this panel 15 times where he's grabbing the gun. I would not pick orange for the background behind this dark gray maroon. It's I can't I don't. Jordie Bellaire is a magician. And then on the next panel, I read it too quickly and I thought, oh, Hawk's trying to shoot all of them. And then I thought, oh, Hawk's shooting badly and he's missing all of them. And then I thought, oh, wait, Hawk just shot Destro in the head 4 times. And that is stunning. No, he's got very good aim. It's not that he's just shooting and running. And then he runs, right? And then the next panel, this drawing of Destro, right? I'm just repeating myself now. There was a lot going on. This expression, he's surprised, he's angry, he's not just surprised, but stunned. But the way that he's leaning over, right? He's leaning over at us like he's recovering, like he's tired, like he's figuring it out, but also he's underlit because remember there's that table in front of them, but and he is kind of like a moment behind because he doesn't sort of finish the correct thought, and it's Chameleon who does for him. Cobra, what are you waiting for? Go after him. And then on the next panel, this was a thing I was going to say a minute ago. Last issue, I was like, are those Cobra guys behind so-and-so? Are they all in red? Are they all in blue? Are they all in red? Because Jordie Bellaire is just putting a bunch of warm colors here. And I have a version of my answer. One of these Cobra guys is blue and one of these Cobra guys is red. Neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that Destro panel is great, and you can see there's like sort of seems to be 3 smoking indentations from the bullets hitting him, and I wonder how permanent this is going to be. Are we going to see some bullet dents in his mask for a little while going forward? That'll be fun if we do get to see that. So yeah, Chameleon there as well. She's looking very Kirby-esque, you know. It's like the grand pointing, and there's almost some. It's not really Kirby Crackle, but it feels a little bit like Kirby Crackle behind them. And I don't think Reilly drew that. I think he just drew the like effect lines on the left and right edges of the panel. And but it's like, obviously we're going to have a pink background with orange and yellow pop to it. With lots of nice Ben style dots over the top of it.
If you describe this to me, if I was the editor, I would say, don't do that. But I'm wrong. And then if you could go down to the panel where Hawk gets on the helicopter, like, can you scroll over a little bit to the right? Is there a little bit more space to get on the right? And then back up a smidge. Thank you.
Is that you wanting close up of Hawk?
I mean, the little hand gesture, right? He's just yelling now. It's like, I love that because a lot of times when I see a movie or read a comic and someone says something in 8 words or 13 words, I think, you know, if I was in that situation and running to that helicopter, I would say that in 1 or 2 words. You know, it's like, guys, we got to get out of here now. It's like, no. It's like, guys. And from context, you understand. It's like, no, you have to like explain to the audience. It's like, we're out of here. It's like 3 words. So he does it in 1 and a gesture. I love the red that he's framed in. And then the pilot or guard, I'm not sure, is also framed in red because of that window. And that pilot is not someone important. So Reilly puts him in shadow. He's just a generic, you know, soldier guy. I was wondering in this moment just how fast a helicopter like this could spool up, to use a spaceship word. And I'm just going to pretend that it was sort of in, it was sort of idling.
Yeah.
Keep it in neutral. I'll be back. We might have to make a quick getaway. And I realized with this scene that as 2 steps ahead or 5 steps ahead, as Cobra Commander is for the bad guys, Williamson has Hawk. He knows a bunch he's not letting on. He can fight. He's tough. He can take it. He can bargain, and he's, you know, 2 or 3 steps ahead. And the scene is just totally awesome.
Very good. And there was, I guess, it made me think again. I've sort of previously speculated who is Zartan, the Forerunners being Flag and Hawk. And with this sort of gymnastic kick, it did, you know, it was very aerobic, very ninja-y kind of kick. It did make me think, could this be another indicator that Hawk might perhaps be Zartan? But you know, he's an old guy, but he's a very capable guy. He surprised them, but to some degree, he's also surprised himself. And this line here, still got it, sort of plays that down a little bit. So I think it's playing with the idea that he maybe he could be someone else, but also it's not saying that's definitely the case. I think there's still wiggle room. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't.
And then that final line for this scene, which is a punchline. What the hell just happened? And then Destro says, I don't know. And I don't need to see Destro continually foiled, but I do like a balance where sometimes the the good guys and the bad guys. They are 2 steps ahead, and they do pull it off. They do surprise me, or they stumble and they are not 2 steps ahead. And then this line, which is this sort of Destro's honor and his sense of I don't know, the stakes or the balance of it all. Much as I loathe to admit it, Hawk is right. What a cool line, that he's not just like, screaming like, "I'll get you, Hawk, and your little helicopter too, and your little Jeep robot man too." But that he knows that he was bested this time, and so Destro will regroup and come back harder later.
And more than that, Hawk is right. We need Cobra Commander, he concludes. And this whole setup was that Destro was trying to oust Cobra Commander, become the leader of Cobra, kill off Cobra Commander by setting them up with the Dreadnoks. And now he's realizing that actually he probably needs him. And I was thinking like ahead to future issues. We've seen like covers where it looks like Cobra's back together again. I'm like, how could that happen? Surely there's too big a divide. And this little scene here does so much work to kind of make that turnaround of Destro realizing to himself, okay, actually, I do need Cobra Commander. I can't do this Energon stuff by myself. I need him, and so I'm going to have to reconcile. Or maybe more than reconcile, he might actually be the one that comes into the rescue next issue for the conclusion. And I was thinking to myself, actually, in terms of storytelling, Cobra Commander doesn't know that necessarily at this point that he's been set up by Destro. He's just been seeing himself being attacked by Ripper and then the Dreadnoks. So it might be that Destro can sort of, play that down and reconcile without Cobra Commander necessarily being any the wiser about this whole scheme that he had to wrest control and get rid of the commander.
Yeah, if Cobra Commander comes back to Cobra soon and he and Destro were getting along, whether or not Cobra Commander suspects, that'll be fun, because I think Williamson is going to entertain me regardless. I would have wished that Destro got to be in charge for longer, because I like that dynamic, but it also happened much earlier in this whole comic book series than I thought it would. So it could always happen again, and in a bigger way.
We'll leave the tension there, that we know that he's got ambitions.
Or, Cobra Commander will come back and he'll say, like, "How are things?" And Destro's like, everything's fine. And Cobra Commander will say, "Sure, that's fine. Let's keep going." And then Cobra Commander off to himself is like, "Of course I know you tried to betray me, Destro." And then he's got an ace in his pocket. Looking at this close-up panel here of Destro, this is page 7, the final panel on page 7. I'm struck by something that Larry Hama said, I think relatively recently, but I think it's an old thought, which is that Destro is wearing a mask. And, some artists draw it sort of just like a face that is a little metallic. And I know we all have sort of a different like point on our like continuum of how like flexible this mask is. Is it like nanites in a movie and it's like just the guy's face with like basically sort of silver paint on it? I know that's not how they did it, but and what I'm seeing here is, I think, a sweet spot where this is very much a mask, but it can move. And Reilly, every time he draws Destro, he nails that. And I'm not trying to make any other artists seem like they can't. I'm not trying to claim that a bunch of other artists can't draw Destro, but I feel like this hits that balance really well, because I don't want it to be like Darklon's mask where we can't see eyebrows and cheekbones and like a mouth opening, even though sort of realistically that's what it would be. If Tom Reilly ever gets bored of drawing the Energon Universe G.I. Joe and wants to jump over and draw the Larry Hama Real American Hero G.I. Joe, it's fine with me.
That would be confusing.
It would, but it'd also be great.
So I think we're pretty much done with the issue. There's no specific letter page this month or this by week. So instead, they're sort of taking the opportunity to show the Road Pig design in the back of the book, which it hadn't really occurred to me that they hadn't done. But that's a great place to stick it. And yeah, when they have these things, definitely put them in the book, have them in print. That's great to have. So we'll be continuing to discuss Dreadnok War as it continues. I think the next one actually has a 3-week gap over the Christmas break. So January the 7th is the next one. Did I do my maths right? So you had Wednesday there.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And then also Transformers on January the 14th, A Real American Hero, issue number 324 with the Joe's in Space cover is out the week after G.I. Joe 17 on the 14th of January. So we'll also be covering that as it comes out. So I think that is mostly us done talking G.I. Joe issue number 16. Any last thoughts before we properly wrap up?
Just that overall, I've been really pleased with each issue of this story as being a satisfying unit of comic and story by itself, but also moving the overall story ahead. And I know you said this in a previous episode, but shipping this more often to sort of enhance the effect that it's all happening in a short period of time really just adds to it. You know, I read this comic kind of fast, but I think that's okay because the story is going kind of fast. And also I own it forever and I can reread it whenever I want.
Very good. Cool. So what else is going on over on the Facebook group? We're continuing to share news as it comes out. I just shared some cool process art from Marco Federa for G.I. Joe issue number 18, which is actually out the week after G.I. Joe 17, I think. Have I got that right? 2 weeks after. So that is January the 21st. So you can find Talking Joe in the normal places. We are over at talkingjoe.co.uk. That is the website that links you all of the places we can be found, like the Facebook group where we share the news and you can get involved in the discussion. We've also got a link to the merch on that as well. That's only been there a few weeks at point of recording, so you can get involved with like the cool kids who have bought their merch and are proudly displaying it over on the Facebook page. You can also be a super double cool kid like the Patreon members Richard, Sam, Bill, Rob, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, Frank, D, Shane V2. This one took someone else's hand chainsaw and attached it to his own arm. Imagine that. Infinite Entertainment, Patrick, Gary V, and Coldroff. They're getting early access to episodes, including this one, and all other things besides. Tim, where can you be found when you're not talking to me about G.I. Joe? YouTube.com/@AtomicAbe for video essays on television and film. I didn't think I was interested in the Dick Van Dyke TV series Diagnosis Murder, but then I watched Atomic Abe's Behind the Backdoor pilot, which I executive produced, and I thought, now I know so much about this show, and I've just been super entertained by this thoughtful essay on a TV show. I own a comic book store, Hub Comics, in Somerville, Massachusetts. That's a brick and mortar shop. And I write about G.I. Joe at my blog, arealamericanbook.com. Also, very good.
In February, on February 11th, a 4-issue miniseries that I spent many years cajoling and wrangling and worrying about and doing very, very, very small but many tiny corrections on, called The Center Holds, will be in comic book stores. And it's written by Larry Hama, who's the G.I. Joe writer of note, and drawn by Mark Bright, M.D. Bright, who is a G.I. Joe artist of note. And it's a superhero story. And please, if you like that kind of thing, comics by Larry Hama, comics by Mark Bright, superhero stories, comics edited by me, please ask your local comic book store to order it for you. It's only 4 issues, and the first issue is double-sized.
Very good. And if you want to find out more about that particular comic and how it came about, we recorded a discussion talking about that very thing. So check that out from our back catalogue. So I think we are done with discussing G.I. Joe issue number 16. But before we go away, I've got something just in the back of my mind that was really important that we tell the listeners before we stop. Tim, can you think what it might have been?
Is it that Nobody Beats Talking Joe, an international podcast?
That was it. Thanks. Laters.